across the heartland of America, where the ribbons of asphalt stretch endlessly into the horizon, a quiet rhythm of life unfolds. Truckers traverse continents, families embark on journeys, and small towns anchor themselves just beyond the hum of passing engines. This vast network, a symbol of freedom and connection, also harbors an insidious truth that within its endless anonymity, a terrifying predator can roam unseen. For some, the very promise of the open road becomes a desolate trap, a place where lives are consumed without a witness, leaving only a lingering absence and a chilling, unsolved mystery. The silence that follows is not emptiness, but a void echoing with questions, a terrifying testament to a hunter who melts into the landscape. This is not merely a story of disappearance, but of a pattern etched across miles, a chilling blueprint of a predator who saw the highway, not as a path, but as a hunting ground. How does one individual orchestrate such widespread devastation, leaving a trail of sorrow across states, yet remain utterly invisible to the world? Meadow Creek, Kansas, was a town cradled by the vast expanse of the American heartland, a place where the murmur of distant interstate traffic was merely background noise to the quiet rhythms of daily life. Fields of wheat stretched to the horizon, painting the landscape in shades of gold and green, and the air often carried the scent of freshly cut hay. This was the world of Sarah Jenkins, a vibrant 19-year-old college student whose dreams stretched far beyond the town's borders, yet whose roots were deeply embedded within its unassuming charm. Sarah, known for her infectious laugh and a habit of humming pop songs, slightly off-key, spent her evening serving pie and coffee at the Prairie Plate, a diner just off the legendary Interstate 70. She envisioned a future caring for animals, a veterinary degree, a tangible goal on her path. Her mother, Eleanor Jenkins, often spoke of Sarah as the very light that filled our home, her voice thick with an affection that resonated through the years that followed. On a crisp autumn night, the mundane choreography of Sarah's life was abruptly interrupted. She waved goodbye to her coworker, the diner's neon sign casting a faint halo around her silhouette as she walked towards her car. It was just past 11 o'clock. The coworker remembered nothing amiss, only the amber glow of the street lamp outlining Sarah's retreating form before the consuming darkness of the rural night swallowed her whole. What followed was the swift, terrifying descent into a parent's worst nightmare. Eleanor's initial calls to Sarah's phone were met with the indifferent silence of a voicemail box. A furrow formed between her brows, deepening with each unanswered ring. The initial flicker of annoyance at a late teenager soon morphed into a chilling, unfamiliar anxiety. Hours stretched into an agonizing eternity. The living room, usually filled with the comforting hum of late-night television, became a tomb of worried whispers and desperate phone calls. Eleanor's husband, John, meticulously dialed Sarah's friends, each negative answer a fresh pinprick of fear. As dawn approached, painting the eastern sky in hues of bruised purple and gray, the phone remained stubbornly silent. The quiet of the house, once a comfort, became suffocating. Eleanor, her face pale and drawn, a tremor in her hands, began to understand. The comforting normalcy of their world had irrevocably dissolved. Sarah, their vivacious, dream-filled daughter, was simply gone. A grainy, indistinct image from a distant gas station security camera showing a fleeting glimpse of her car pulling away became the final haunting visual. In Meadow Creek, a profound emptiness now resonated, a silent testament to a chilling, utterly inexplicable disappearance that had swallowed one of their own. The first rays of dawn, hesitant and pale, pierced through the lingering darkness, revealing a scene that shattered the fragile hope clinging to Meadow Creek. Miles from the Jenkins home, nestled deep within a sprawling wheat field, near a rarely used service road off Interstate 70, a local farmer, on his morning rounds, stumbled upon a vehicle. It was Sarah Jenkins' well-maintained sedan, almost consumed by the golden stalks of wheat, seeming to float amidst the immensity of the rural landscape. The discovery was swift, but the profound stillness emanating from the car was chilling, more unsettling than any audible cry. There were no obvious signs of forced entry, no shattered glass, no visible struggle. The interior appeared untouched, save for Sarah's purse, sitting calmly on the passenger seat. Within minutes, the quiet of the rural morning was ruptured by the wail of sirens. Patrol cars converged, their flashing lights strobing against the growing light, painting the wheat field in an urgent dance of red and blue. Sheriff Frank Miller, a man whose face bore the lines of decades spent policing this tranquil county, arrived, his usual stoicism replaced by a grim set to his jaw. He surveyed the scene, his gaze sweeping across the pristine field, the lone car, and the quiet professional movements of his deputies. It felt all wrong. He would later recall, his voice heavy with the memory of that unnerving tidiness. Too clean for what we feared had happened. Crime scene tape unfurled, a stark yellow barrier against the innocent landscape, marking the perimeter where an unspeakable act had unfolded. Forensics technicians, methodical and precise, moved through the area like shadows, their movements deliberate as they searched for any anomaly, any telltale sign that might betray the perpetrator. Every surface was dusted for prints, every inch scoured for trace DNA, but the car yielded little. The ground around it offered no clear impressions, no discarded items. The critical pieces were devastatingly absent, no witnesses, no discernible motive, and Sarah herself was nowhere to be found. The plains, once a comforting expanse, now felt like a terrifying, indifferent accomplice to an unseen act. The immediate response escalated into a desperate, large-scale operation. Hundreds of volunteers drawn from Meadow Creek and neighboring towns descended upon the region, combing through fields, woodlands, and ditches. Search and rescue helicopters crisscrossed the sky overhead, their rotors a rhythmic thrum against the backdrop of the unfolding tragedy. Yet, this boundless territory offered countless hiding places, too many blind spots for a person to simply disappear. The hours bled into days, the frantic energy slowly giving way to a gnawing frustration. The initial hope, however faint, began to dissipate, replaced by the chilling certainty that Sarah Jenkins had not simply wandered off. She had been absorbed by the anonymous expanse that linked this quiet town to the wider world. The investigation had begun, a desperate search for an invisible enemy, leaving behind only the faintest, most confounding print in the endless, unforgiving wheat. Weeks bled into months. The frantic search for Sarah Jenkins faded into a gnawing ache in the heart of Meadow Creek, her case file growing heavier with unanswered questions, slowly gathering dust as a cold entry in the local sheriff's records. The quiet hum of the interstate, once a symbol of everyday transit, now carried an ominous undercurrent, a constant reminder of the young woman who had vanished without a trace along its sprawling path. The Jenkins family continued their agonizing vigil, their hope a fragile flicker against the encroaching darkness. Then 800 miles away, near Columbus, Ohio, a disquieting parallel emerged. The story was eerily familiar. Michael Vance, a 22-year-old aspiring musician, disappeared after a late-night gig at a roadside bar. His car, like Sarah's, was found abandoned near an I-70 exit, seemingly untouched miles from any urban center. And like Sarah, Michael was simply gone, leaving behind only an unsettling. The initial reports landed on the desk of Detective Miles Corbin of the Ohio State Police. Corbin, a veteran homicide investigator, whose eyes held the weariness of too many unanswered questions, but whose resolve remained unyielding, reviewed the details. He noticed the striking, disturbing parallels in the modus operandi. Both victims were young, seemingly vulnerable individuals, abducted without forced entry or visible struggle at their vehicles. Most crucially, both incidents occurred in close proximity to the vast impersonal artery of Interstate 70. Corbin felt a cold certainty settle in his gut. This was no isolated incident. The geographical separation, initially baffling, now presented a sinister connection. The meticulous quietness of both scenes, the lack of struggle, the absolute absence of the victims, these were not random acts. It wasn't just similar, Corbin would state, his voice measured, devoid of emotional inflection. It was almost identical in its execution. The precision, the lack of evidence left behind. It spoke volumes about the perpetrator's intent and method. The realization hit with the force of a physical blow. The seamless anonymity of the interstate had become this predator's domain, transforming the ribbon of highway into an extended hunting ground. This was no longer a local tragedy, nor even a regional enigma. It was the terrifying manifestation of a serial pattern, a shadow lengthening across the very heart of the long-haul corridor of Interstate 70. A phone call to Sheriff Miller in Kansas, a grim exchange of details, solidified a horrifying truth. A methodical predator was at large, meticulously weaving a thread of abductions across the American heartland. The hunt for one missing person had just transformed into a desperate search for a phantom, a killer whose operational expanse defied conventional police work. The chilling recognition of a serial pattern laid bare an investigative challenge, unlike any seen before. 2 abductions, hundreds of miles apart, yet chillingly aligned in their execution, demanded a unified front against an enemy who seemed to defy geography. Detective Miles Corbin found himself at the helm of a burgeoning, multi-jurisdictional task force, coordinating efforts between Kansas, Ohio, and federal agencies. The sheer scale of the inquiry was overwhelming, a daunting expanse of highway and desolate landscapes. How does one track a phantom who leaves no discernible footprint and operates across state lines with such meticulous precision? Their first imperative was a forensic deep dive, a painstaking re-examination of every scrap of evidence from both the Sarah Jenkins and Michael Vance cases. Labs in Topeka and Columbus transformed into centers of intense activity. Teams of analysts, their faces illuminated by the harsh glow of microscopes, meticulously combed through vehicles' clothing and even the surrounding soil for the slightest common denominator. Fingerprints traced DNA fibers, tire impressions. Each fragment held the potential to unlock the mystery. Yet the perpetrator was a master of evasion. The scenes yielded tantalizingly little. No signs of struggle, no discarded weapons, no obvious genetic material left behind. It was an unnerving efficiency that spoke volumes about the killer's cold calculation and absolute control, pushing investigators to the very limits of their technical and conceptual understanding. To piece together the psychological puzzle, the task force brought in Dr. Evelyn Reed, a senior profiler from the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit. Dr. Reed's voice, calm and analytical, cut through the noise of theories and speculation. She described the perpetrator as a likely nomadic individual, someone who exploited the very anonymity of the open road as both his hunting ground and his sanctuary. This individual doctor. Reed explained, her gaze sweeping over a map, dotted with the 2 abduction sites, is opportunistic but exceptionally careful. They thrive on the transient nature of the highway, able to blend seamlessly into different communities, leaving little to no impression before vanishing again. This painted a picture of a predator unanchored to a single geographic location, rendering traditional neighborhood canvassing virtually useless. Working alongside Corbin Detective Elena Ramirez of the Ohio State Police emerged as a pivotal figure. Sharp, intuitive, and deeply immersed in the world of digital forensics, Ramirez grappled with the profound scope of the search. The absence of a fixed point meant conventional police work was severely hampered. Instead of a localized search, they faced a near infinite array of possibilities. The task force was chasing whispers, pursuing microscopic clues across a continental divide, their frustration a constant companion. Days bled into weeks as the elusive connection remained stubbornly out of reach, stretching invisibly across the vast, indifferent American landscape. Each piece of evidence, every potential lead, felt like a single strand in a colossal, impossibly intricate web, waiting for the right illumination to reveal its hidden form. Months melted into a relentless current, carrying with them the fading echoes of initial hope, leaving behind only the cold, unyielding reality of absence. For Eleanor Jenkins, the passage of time did not dull the edge of her grief. It sharpened it, honing the constant, brutal weight that pressed down on her chest. Sarah's room remained a shrine, untouched, a silent testament to a life abruptly halted. Eleanor would often find herself tracing the spines of Sarah's textbooks, or clutching a sweater that still held a faint ghost-like scent of her daughter's perfume. "You can't be strong through something like that," she would whisper, her voice thin, splintered by the sheer force of her anguish. "It just rips you to pieces every single day." The initial public facade of resilience often crumbled in the solitary quiet of the night, revealing the profound, isolating despair that clung to her. She carried the unbearable burden of what-ifs, each unanswered question a fresh visceral pang to her already wounded spirit. Hundreds of miles away, Robert Vance Michael's father bore his grief with a quiet, stoic dignity that barely concealed a profound, silent chasm within. Michael, with his guitar and his vibrant dreams of making music, had been the very pulse of their home. Now there was only a profound stillness. Robert's eyes, though dry, held a deep, unyielding sorrow as he spoke of his son. "He was such a good kid," Robert would say, his gaze distant, "and it just shouldn't have happened. There's this gaping void where his laughter used to be a constant reminder of everything he won't get to be." He carried the weight of Michael's unfinished symphony, the future stolen, with a quiet, steely resolve for answers. Meanwhile, in the makeshift command center of the multi-jurisdictional task force, the relentless pursuit exacted its own heavy toll. Detective Miles Corbin, his face etched with fatigue, subsisted on lukewarm coffee and an unyielding determination. The whiteboards charting leads and timelines stretched across walls, a sprawling, complex puzzle that yielded no clear picture of their elusive perpetrator. He often found himself staring at the map of I-70 dotted with the 2 abduction sites, a grim line connecting 2 seemingly disparate tragedies, feeling the immense scale of the miles and the crushing weight of unanswered questions. His jaw would tighten almost imperceptibly as he reviewed victim photos, a silent internal acknowledgement of the human cost driving their unwavering effort. The professional detachment he usually maintained fractured only in these private moments, revealing a fleeting weariness that spoke volumes of the battles fought within. Detective Elena Ramirez, equally consumed by the case, buried herself in the minutiae of digital data, the glowing screen her only companion late into the night. She meticulously cross-referenced databases, her sharp intellect battling against the elusive nature of the evidence. The pressure mounted with each passing day, the knowledge that a predator remained at large, potentially striking again, a constant low-frequency hum of urgency. The dedication of this small, focused team was absolute, but the strain was palpable, manifesting in abbreviated sleep-frayed nerves and the quiet sacrifices of personal lives. They were navigating a labyrinth of sorrow, driven by an unshakable commitment to the lost and those who grieved, chasing an unseen, almost spectral adversary across the vast, indifferent landscape of the American highway. The weeks of grinding frustration had left the task force on the precipice of exhaustion, their leads dissolving into the boundless anonymity of the interstate. The elusive connection between Sarah Jenkins and Michael Vance, once merely a haunting whisper, seemed perpetually beyond reach. Hope, a precious commodity, was in increasingly short supply. Then, from the very depths of the dormant investigation, a flicker of light pierced the pervasive gloom. The first significant breakthrough emerged from Sarah Jenkins' abandoned vehicle. Though meticulously examined countless times before a fresh review employing cutting-edge forensic techniques yielded a discovery overlooked until now. Deep within a minute seam of the driver's seat, where fabric met plastic trim, analysts isolated a single microscopic fiber. Its unique polymer composition immediately set it apart. This was no common material found in typical vehicle interiors or clothing. It was a foreign intrusion, a silent anomaly. The lead forensics technician, Dr. Eris Thorne, a man known for his near-obsessive attention to detail, felt a surge of professional adrenaline. This wasn't merely a speck of dust. It held the potential of a signature. Simultaneously, hundreds of miles away in Ohio, Detective Elena Ramirez was relentlessly sifting through thousands of hours of previously disregarded security footage. Her eyes, red-rimmed from continuous work, scanned the grainy images from every truck stop and gas station near the Michael Vance abduction site. Most footage offered little more than a blur of passing vehicles and anonymous faces. But then, on a particularly nondescript clip from a gas station camera captured just hours before Vance's disappearance, she observed it, a dark, older model cargo van pulling away from a pump. The vehicle itself was ordinary, but as it turned for a fleeting moment, the camera captured a clear view of its rear tires. Etched onto the asphalt was a distinctive, unusual tire tread pattern, unlike anything commonly seen on commercial or passenger vehicles. Ramirez froze the footage, zooming in her breath, catching in her throat. She instantly recognized the pattern, a detail previously cataloged but dismissed during the initial overwhelmed sweep of the Kansas crime scene. An almost imperceptible tire impression, had been found in the soft earth near Sarah Jenkins' abandoned car. At the time, with no suspect and millions of vehicles on the road, it had been just another piece of data. Now illuminated by the Ohio footage, it stood out with stark clarity, demanding immediate scrutiny. The synchronization was electrifying. Ramirez immediately cross-referenced the unique tire pattern with Dr. Thorne's recently discovered fiber. It was a tenuous link, but the fiber's chemical analysis revealed properties consistent with certain industrial carpeting or insulation materials, the kind often found in older cargo vans, especially those that might have been customized or heavily used. The unique fiber and the distinctive tire tread, two isolated anomalies from two separate states, suddenly coalesced into a single, undeniable connection. It was the culmination of monumental effort and meticulous attention to detail, transforming two seemingly insignificant pieces of evidence into the first tangible link between the two abductions. The true thread of their investigation, once invisible, had finally materialized, offering its first real, undeniable direction. The hunt had entered a new, definitive phase. With the unique fiber and the distinctive tire tread now undeniably linked, the multi-jurisdictional task force launched an unprecedented digital dragnet spanning the entire I-70 corridor. Their singular objective, a dark cargo van with that specific identifiable tire pattern, a vehicle that had vanished into the endless churn of American traffic. Detective Miles Corbin entrusted Detective Elena Ramirez with orchestrating this meticulous and technologically intensive phase. It was a daunting proposition, akin to seeking a single ripple in a boundless ocean, yet it represented their only viable path forward. Ramirez and her dedicated team systematically harnessed every available surveillance technology. They amassed data from thousands of automatic number plate recognition, ANPR cameras strategically positioned along I-70, requesting footage from days surrounding both abductions. Toll road transponder records, silent digital breadcrumbs of countless journeys, were meticulously processed. Perhaps the most grueling endeavor involved the painstaking review of thousands of hours of truck stop and rest area CCTV footage collected from Ohio to Kansas and every state in between. These were often low-resolution grainy images, a blurred tapestry of mundane activity, but within them lay the faint, persistent hope of a crucial lead. Ramirez, possessing an almost preternatural ability to discern anomalies within oceans of data, became the central figure in this electronic hunt. She established complex search parameters, cross-referencing license plate numbers and vehicle descriptions from the regions of the crimes, with an unwavering focus on dark-colored cargo vans. The process was agonizingly slow, an iterative game of attrition. Each filter applied each hour of footage, scrutinized, chipped away at the vast pool of possibilities. It's like sifting through concrete for individual diamonds. Ramirez would comment, her eyes fixed on multiple screens, her fingers flying across the keyboard with tireless precision. One wrong parameter, one overlooked detail, and the entire pursuit collapses. Slowly, painstakingly, a distinct pattern began to materialize. A specific, dark-colored cargo van, unremarkable in its facade, but chillingly consistent in its movements, repeatedly surfaced in the ANPR and toll data within the precise temporal windows and geographical vicinities of both the Sarah Jenkins and Michael Vance abductions. This particular vehicle, the system revealed, was registered to Randall Hayes, a long-haul truck driver whose routes, though varied, consistently placed him along the I-70 corridor in both Kansas and Ohio during the periods of the disappearances. His digital shadow, once lost among the millions of other drivers, now illuminated a disturbingly consistent presence at two horrific crime scenes. The revelation struck the weary team like a jolt, a surge of adrenaline tearing through their exhaustion. The elusive connection had not only revealed itself, but had led them directly to a name. The very anonymity of the open road, once the perpetrator's greatest ally, had ultimately become his betrayer. The hunt, once a sprawling, unfocused search, had tightened its gaze, now fixed on a single individual. The net painstakingly woven from countless fragments of data was beginning its inexorable closure around Randall Hayes. The digital shadow meticulously mapped by Elena Ramirez and her team now solidified into a chilling reality. Randall Hayes, his name, once merely a data point in a vast electronic ledger, now resonated with stark, ominous significance. The next phase of the investigation demanded absolute discretion. The task force began to painstakingly reconstruct Hayes's life, delving into his past without a ripple of alert. On paper, he was a cipher, a 52-year-old long-haul truck driver, no criminal record, a transient existence marked by endless miles and fleeting stops. He moved through the world like a whisper, leaving little personal imprint beyond his travel logs and a scattering of mundane, isolated interactions. Detective Miles Corbin grasped the profound gravity of the situation. "You're looking for someone who actively avoids being seen," Corbin articulated, his voice low, imbued with years of tracking the unseen. They learn to fade, to become background noise. Hayes had mastered this art. The revelation was unsettling precisely because of Hayes's utter ordinariness. How could such a bland, seemingly unassuming existence conceal such a monstrous secret? Yet the digital evidence was irrefutable. His dark cargo van, identified by its distinctive tire pattern, consistently appeared in the precise locations and within the narrow time frames of both the Sarah Jenkins and Michael Vance abductions. Every flimsy alibi, every supposed diversion disintegrated under the relentless weight of this corroborating data. A covert surveillance operation was immediately launched. Teams of seasoned federal agents and state police officers, working in seamless shifts, shadowed Hayes along his routes. From the unrevealing confines of unmarked vehicles, they observed his every move at truck stops, rest areas, and gas stations, the very same transient hubs where Sarah and Michael had last been seen. The surveillance unfolded as a relentless test of patience, a deliberate, intricate dance of observation designed to ensure his capture without jeopardizing public safety or compromising the integrity of crucial evidence. A palpable tension tightened in the stomachs of the officers. Each passing mile represented a horrifying opportunity for Hayes to strike again, a terrifying possibility that underscored the desperate urgency of their mission. Corbin received daily exhaustive updates, each report a forensic dissection of Hayes's routine. He was a creature of habit, yet uncannily adaptable, slipping from one state to the next with an unsettling ease. The collected intelligence painted a portrait of a man utterly detached, moving through the world without truly engaging, a chillingly effective facade for a predator. The anonymity of the highway, once his boundless sanctuary, had irrevocably transformed into a carefully monitored trap. Every turn he executed, every stop he made, was now silently catalogued. The expansive net, once impossibly wide, had narrowed to a single, laser-focused point. They were no longer merely pursuing a shadow. They were waiting for Randall Hayes to drive directly into their waiting, inescapable embrace. The time for the silent approach was rapidly drawing to a close. Randall Hayes was apprehended at a nondescript truck stop in Indiana, miles from his home base. His dark cargo van, secured by a precise, swift maneuver that allowed no time for resistance. The scene was professional, almost clinical, a stark contrast to the chaos and despair he had left in his wake. Hours later, he was seated in an interrogation room, bathed in the cool, even light of a standard overhead fixture. He appeared calm, almost disengaged, as Detective Miles Corbin and Detective Elena Ramirez entered the room, their expressions measured and unwavering. Hayes began by feigning amiable bewilderment, his voice smooth and even a practiced innocence. "I don't know why I'm here. I haven't done anything that warrants this kind of attention. Just on my route, same as always." He attempted a small, disarming smile, a casual shrug. "Don't even recall hearing about any missing folks. You must have the wrong fellow." Corbin settled opposite him, his posture relaxed, but his gaze was sharp, absorbing every micro-expression. "Mr. Hayes," Corbin began, his voice a low, steady current, "we're not here on a hunch. We're here because we follow facts. And the facts, Mr. Hayes, have brought us directly to you." Ramirez, leaning forward, slightly placed a large, high-resolution photo of a unique tire tread pattern on the sterile table between them. "This tire pattern, Mr. Hayes," she stated, her tone factual and precise, "was found at both abduction sites. We tracked it using the ANPR cameras and toll data across multiple states. And that trail led us to your van." Hayes's calm facade visibly rippled. He leaned back, his eyes darting to the photograph, then to Ramirez, then to Corbin. "Tires, come on now, detective. There are thousands of vans on the road, all with similar treads. I'm a truck driver. I put a lot of miles on. It could be anyone's vehicle." His voice remained even, but a subtle tension began to etch itself around his eyes. He offered a vague alibi about being dead tired and pulling over at various anonymous rest stops, claiming he must have been hundreds of miles away asleep in my bunk when these incidents occurred. Corbin then pushed another photo across the table, the microscopic fiber. "And this Mr. Hayes. This unique fiber found deep within the driver's seat of Sarah Jenkins' car, miles from where it was abandoned. Our forensics linked it to specialized industrial material, the kind perhaps you might find in an older cargo van, one that might have been modified on the interior." For the first time, Hayes's entire body stiffened. His eyes narrowed, a distinct flicker of something cold and calculating passing through them. "Modified? I don't know what you're talking about. My van's just a work vehicle. Standard issue." His narrative began to audibly fray, shifting from feigned ignorance to a frustrated, almost aggrieved defensiveness. His tone grew sharper, laced with a thin edge of irritation. "I'm a hard-working man. You're trying to pin this on me just because I drive the same roads as everyone else. It's preposterous." He then launched into a rambling, increasingly contradictory account of his movements, claiming he had been visiting a distant relative, then contradicting himself by placing himself at a truck stop in another state entirely. The truth, if there ever was one in his statements, was being twisted beyond all recognition. Corbin, observing the unraveling, leaned forward, his voice dropping, slightly imbued with an unyielding certainty that felt heavier than any shout. "Then why, Mr. Hayes, do your travel logs meticulously recorded by the very systems you rely on for your livelihood place you at precisely the wrong place at precisely the wrong time on two separate occasions, hundreds of miles apart. There was no accusation in Corbin's tone, only an unblinking, relentless presentation of incontrovertible fact. Hayes's jaw clenched, a prominent vein throbbing faintly in his temple. His carefully constructed mask was cracking, revealing the agitated, desperate core beneath. The intricate tapestry of his deception, once his greatest strength, was quickly becoming his undoing. The interrogation had shattered Randall Hayes's deceptive mask, but the ultimate reckoning awaited him in the solemn arena of the courtroom. The labyrinthine complexities of multi-state jurisdiction, initially a formidable obstacle, had been meticulously navigated, culminating in a consolidated trial designed to bring justice for both Sarah Jenkins and Michael Vance. Prosecution, spearheaded by the formidable district attorney Eleanor Vance, meticulously presented a chronological, devastating case, painstakingly laying bare the threads of evidence that wove inexorably around Hayes. Expert witnesses took the stand, each testimony serving as a deliberate, undeniable hammer blow against Hayes's remaining failure. The lead forensics technician, Dr. Eris Thorne, methodically explained the unique polymer fiber, detailing its precise chemical composition and how it had been undeniably matched to industrial insulation material found within Hayes's dark cargo van during the post-arrest search. He spoke with detached authority, describing how the fiber's deep embedding in Sarah Jenkins's car seat suggested prolonged, intimate contact. Next, a digital forensics expert, meticulously guided by Detective Elena Ramirez, presented the intricate web of ANPR data toll road transponder records and extensive CCTV footage. Screens in the courtroom glowed, displaying maps with plotted GPS points, revealing Hayes's movements with chilling precision, placing his distinct van within miles of both abduction sites, within mere hours of the victims' disappearances. The evidence was presented with stark, unyielding clarity, painting an irrefutable timeline that directly contradicted every one of Hayes's shifting, desperate alibis. Dr. Evelyn Reed, the FBI behavioral profiler, provided the crucial psychological framework elucidating the modus operandi of a transient, opportunistic predator. She outlined how Hayes's nomadic lifestyle, his consistent travel along major interstates, and his meticulously clean crime scenes aligned perfectly with the established behavioral pattern. Her calm, analytical voice filled the courtroom, connecting the seemingly disparate dots of the long-haul corridor with chilling logic. Then came the moments of raw, unvarnished human anguish. Eleanor Jenkins, though visibly trembling, approached the witness stand, her voice initially a whisper, then gaining a surprising strength with each word. Her testimony was a heart-wrenching account of Sarah's vibrant life, her cherished dreams, and the agonizing perpetual void left by her absence. She turned her gaze directly to Randall Hayes, who sat impassively, occasionally shaking his head in feigned disbelief. "You stole my daughter," Eleanor stated, her voice thick with years of unshed tears, yet ringing with a profound, defiant clarity. "You took away her future, our future. Sarah was larger than life, and you reduced her to a case file. You must never again be allowed to walk among free people." Robert Vance Michael's father followed, his quiet stoicism visibly cracking as he spoke of his son's infectious passion for music, the melodies that would now tragically never be written. He recounted the agonizing waiting, the shredding of every fragile hope and the profound, unyielding pain that now defined their lives. Michael was a doting and loving son. Robert testified, his voice catching with emotion. He was everything to us. And you, Randall Hayes, ripped him from our lives. We demand justice for Michael. We need to ensure no other family ever suffers this fate because of you. Hayes sat mostly stoic, sometimes offering a dismissive shake of his head or a faint, disingenuous frown, his deceptive persona clinging to a manufactured denial even in the face of overwhelming evidence and raw human anguish. The courtroom became the final battleground for truth and accountability, where every piece of evidence, every poignant testimony aimed to strip away the perpetrator's mask and secure justice for the lives he had so cruelly extinguished. The courtroom fell into a profound, suffocating silence as the jury foreman stood clutching the verdict slips. Every eye in the room, from the stoic detectives to the grieving families, was fixed on him. Eleanor Jenkins and Robert Vance sat side by side, their hands clasped so tightly their knuckles were white, their faces etched with years of pain and the raw, fragile hope concentrated in this single moment. The air thrummed with unspoken anxiety, a collective breath held captive. We, the jury, in the matter of the state versus Randall Hayes, find the defendant Randall Hayes guilty. The words hung in the air, then struck with undeniable finality. On all counts. A collective, audible gasp escaped the gallery immediately, followed by a wave of palpable relief that visibly washed over the faces of the victims' families. Eleanor Jenkins, who had borne her grief with such public strength, finally crumpled into her husband's embrace, deep, shuddering sobs escaping her lips. It was a sound of overwhelming sorrow, yes, but equally of profound, long-awaited release. Years of relentless pursuit had culminated in this definitive declaration. Robert Vance nodded slowly, his eyes, though still swimming with sorrow, fixed on Randall Hayes. There was no triumph in his gaze, only a quiet, steely acknowledgement of justice, finally definitively rendered. Randall Hayes, even in defeat, maintained a defiant, almost unnervingly blank expression. His jaw remained set, his eyes devoid of remorse or any recognition of the widespread devastation he had wrought. He offered no apology, no acknowledgement of the lives he had shattered. The meticulously crafted mask of denial he had worn for so long seemed to harden, fusing permanently to his features. The judge's voice, clear and resonant, sliced through the aftermath of the verdict. Mr. Hayes, the jury has spoken. The evidence presented meticulously and painstakingly has left no doubt as to your culpability in these heinous crimes. The judge then pronounced the maximum sentence allowable by law, a judgment designed to ensure Randall Hayes would never again experience freedom, never again pose a threat to another innocent life along the vast expanse of the Long Hall corridor. You are hereby sentenced to consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. As the handcuffs clicked into place, the sharp sound resonated through the hushed courtroom. Hayes was led away, his back ramrod straight, disappearing through a side door, swallowed by the justice system he had so long evaded. Outside the courthouse, Eleanor Jenkins, her eyes still red-rimmed, but now clear-faced the assembled media. We absolutely did not think it would ever get solved, she confessed, her voice, but steady. For so long, it felt like Sarah was just a ghost forgotten by the world. But today, the truth has triumphed. It doesn't bring her back, nothing can. But it means he can never harm another family. And that, she concluded, her voice firm, that is a critical step forward. Robert Vance stood beside her, his hand resting gently on her back, a silent testament to their arduous shared journey to this very moment. The long, agonizing vigil had finally reached its end. In the hushed aftermath of the verdict, the profound tension that had gripped the courtroom slowly dissipated, leaving behind a new, quiet stillness. For Eleanor Jenkins and Robert Vance, the pronouncement of guilt did not erase their suffering, but it offered a long-sought cessation to the relentless uncertainty that had consumed years of their lives. Eleanor, her tears now spent, felt a fragile strength beginning to solidify within her. "It doesn't bring Sarah back," she conveyed to the assembled press outside the courthouse, her voice clearer, more resolute than it had been in years. "But it means her story isn't merely one of disappearance. It's also one of justice delivered." Robert, standing steadfastly beside her, simply inclined his head, the lines of anguish on his face subtly softened, a quiet resolve settling in his eyes. In the months that followed their grief, though an ever-present companion began to transform, Eleanor and Robert channeled their enduring pain into a formidable legacy. They established the Sarah and Michael Foundation for Missing Persons, an organization devoted to supporting families whose loved ones vanished under mysterious circumstances and tirelessly advocating for enhanced interagency collaboration in investigations spanning vast distances. Their message resonated with poignant simplicity. No victim should be forgotten. No family should walk the harrowing path of uncertainty alone. Eleanor, once overwhelmed by sorrow, now speaks at national conferences, her raw testimony compelling her advocacy, tireless transforming her personal tragedy into a potent force for systemic change. Robert, in his quieter way, works diligently behind the scenes, ensuring the Foundation's resources reach those most profoundly in need. Meanwhile, the multi-jurisdictional task force, its singular mission accomplished, eventually disbanded. Detective Miles Corbin returned to his homicide unit in Ohio, carrying the indelible marks of the relentless hunt. The years spent pursuing Randall Hayes had tested the very limits of his resolve, deepened his understanding of human depravity, and sharpened his appreciation for the unwavering dedication of his colleagues. Cases like this, Corbin reflected, his gaze distant yet focused, they fundamentally alter your perspective on what is truly possible. This wasn't just apprehending a killer. It was a profound demonstration that even across 1,000 miles, no one can remain entirely unseen. He now champions the critical importance of digital forensics and seamless interstate data sharing in every new investigation, a direct, hard-won lesson from the long-haul corridor. Detective Elena Ramirez, whose digital prowess had been the strategic linchpin in unraveling Hayes' movements, continued her innovative work within law enforcement. Her efforts on the Hayes case became a foundational blueprint for future complex investigations, showcasing the transformative power of ANPR toll transponder data and sophisticated CCTV analysis in tracking highly mobile criminals. She now spearheads initiatives to develop predictive analytics for high-risk interstate corridors, turning the very anonymity Hayes had exploited into a powerful new tool for prevention and intervention. Her dedication remained unwavering, tempered by the stark reality of the human cost she had witnessed. The ribbons of Interstate 70 now carry a different cadence. No longer solely a hunting ground for this specific predator, it pulses with the silent memory of Sarah Jenkins and Michael Vance. Their face once grimly splashed across missing person alerts have become symbols of justice, achieved a testament to the unyielding commitment of those who hunted relentlessly in the shadows. The case of Randall Hayes, the corridor killer, stands as a stark, enduring reminder that while the open road may promise anonymity, the long arm of justice powered by unwavering human dedication and ever-evolving technology will ultimately reach across any distance. The silence on the corridor may not be absolute, but it is now permeated by the resonant echoes of accountability, a lasting legacy for the lives that were so cruelly taken and a beacon of hope for future vigilance. Along the anonymity of the corridor, justice's reach proves boundless. If you wish to follow more stories where justice pursues its shadow across the silent corridors of unseen crime, subscribe to Shadow Files for our next case. Don't forget to subscribe to Shadow Files and hit the notification bell.